Hi, classmates and Dr. Smith. Here is my presentation on the case of the Millers for reality theory. So the techniques for our first question are the most important in building a relationship with Marcus while helping him to understand the basic tenets of reality therapy. I thought that Mike utilized good technique in building a relationship with Marcus. In the procedures that lead to change from counseling with reality therapy. That's the second chapter, procedures that lead to change. Brickell said that the relationship needs to be founded on the A, B, C, D, and E's. Always be courteous and determined and enthusiastic. Don't be judgmental. Use humor, do the unexpected, and maintain boundaries. I thought that there were several techniques. Some of them Mike didn't use, but there were several that he did use to assist Marcus. While Mike was assessing Marcus's situation during his initial assessment visit, he used the technique of attending and reflective listening skills. He asked several questions that help him understand Marcus with more depth and what was causing his current issues with Rob's absence, as well as his stress levels with working on his comprehensive exams. I felt like Mike was empathetic and he didn't seem to be casting any judgment. And he asked clarifying statements he said clarifying statements like, it sounds like this is how you are feeling, in an effort to reiterate that he was listening and he's doing his best to make sure that he was understanding Marcus's situation properly. Mike also gave Marcus homework so he could come to understand his needs and his wants and help steer him on a path toward his quality world. So homework was a key in that. For the second question, if you're going to continue as Marcus's reality therapist, how might you use the WDEP system or WDEP system to support him in exploring and creating a plan to strengthen his relationships? I felt that Mike was clear with Marcus about using the approach of reality theory. Specifically using the WDEP system. He shared his theory about the two basic needs for love and need for power and success. And when Mike asked about, well, what does quality world mean? He was unclear about that. Mike defined his terms. And so he was able to get Marcus to define what his quality world would look like. In other words, he defined his terms as the WDEP system suggests we do. If I were to implement this style of therapy into my practice, which seems like parts of it I would be sure to articulate the theory from the outset and offer materials that would help the client understand it. I believe communication happens best when it's done in 3 different ways. So I thought that I would explain this is what reality therapy is. Share resource materials, and perhaps even at the second meeting, just offer a thumbnail sketch again. This is what the practice I'm using, if I felt it was necessary. So just a little bit of doubling back on that. And if I felt like it would be beneficial, then maybe some online resources as well. In addition, it would be important to tie the responses of the client to various stages of the WDEP discovery, wants, analyzing, the direction, self-evaluation techniques. So like the checks and balances of the plan so far. And finally, making the specific workable plans. Understanding that the system will need to be tweaked regularly to fit the growing understanding of what is happening for the client, what the client is experiencing, and the goals of the client. As well, any tweaks need to be coordinated with the client so that both therapist and client are on the same page. But therapist also needs to keep in mind that the client is, in fact, in the driver's seat. The therapist helps navigate. Newkirk used the image of a car to help the reader understand total behavior. The front tires being thinking and acting, and the wants are in the driver's seat, and physiology and feelings are the rear tires. I appreciated there's this metaphor that Webolding and Brickell used to understand the purpose of the WDEP system. It is, what is a suitcase of behavior? Besides the analogy of the car representing total behavior, it is useful to think of human behavior as a suitcase. The lowest level, or the bottom layer of behavior packed in the suitcase, consists of physiology, over which we have the least direct control. So you think about that full suitcase and trying to dig way down in there. Emotions are layered just above physiology in the hierarchy of control, but human beings have little direct control over feelings. Cognition occupies the third level, just below actions. And while we possess some ability to change our thinking by directly choosing other thoughts, the most effective way to move the suitcase of total behavior is to lift it by the handle attached to the action level. In 12-step programs, there is an axiom: you can act your way to a new way of thinking easier than you can think your way to a new way of acting. So I really liked that. In addition, getting back to Mike and Marcus, in his second visit about his perception of things, he did ask, and he challenged him a bit to consider looking at things a bit differently. What multicultural issues does Marcus's counselor need to attend to? Mike needs to attend to the fact that Marcus is African American and adopted. Marcus has been adopted by a racial couple. The father is from Nigeria, what we might assume to be a collectivist culture. Kim Oliver states in her article, freedom is highly valued in an individualistic culture, with love and belonging being more highly valued in a collectivist culture. Questions commonly contemplated by those in an individualistic culture are: how do I decide what's right for me? What should my next move be to get what I want? Questions asked in a collectivist culture might be: how will what I want affect those people I care about? What is the best thing for our family? The focus is different. Another issue that Mike needs to attend to is that Marcus is also gay, and he has a partner, Rob. What are the issues he faces by being adopted in concert with, that goes back to the earlier section of the issues he faces with being adopted in concert with his dependence on others, and also what that has to do with individualism and collectivism. But going back then again to the fact that Marcus is gay, and he has a partner, Rob, and the dynamics with his relationship to Rob while Rob is away for the work for several months. Being that they are gay, are there any issues that need to be tended to with regard to their sexuality or sexual orientation? Newkrug shares that there is much about this therapy that works all over the world and works really well. And as in fact, they know people are using it by many different backgrounds. So that's one way that this works well, although a criticism of it is that it's still founded in a Western culture. And so it has that bias, but it is being used widely all over the world. Marcus has a lot of diversity within himself. And so all of these things, it's not just one thing, but it's many things that Marcus is dealing with in the context of the issues that bring him to therapy. So how do those create layers that need to be addressed in the counseling setting? Newkrug shares that if he wants to talk about these dynamics, he can, but if they're non-issues for him in regard to the issues that he's bringing to the counseling session, then he can simply just move on. I think the trick for the counselor is to figure out how to ask the questions without seeming judgmental or creating another problem that perhaps wasn't a problem to begin with, or just making sure that he is attentive to the needs And so I think it could be tricky to bring in. I think I talked about this in previous work that to bring in the issues that are necessary to be dealt with, but in this reality-based therapy, being careful to not add problems where there may not be for the client. Also being careful to not be judgmental. If you were applying rational emotive behavior therapy with Marcus instead of reality therapy, what would be two major differences in the delivery of the counseling? First, and really doesn't answer the question, but I really like Ellis's snarky personality, but I think it's because it can be similar to my own. It did remind me to be confident in my personality, that I don't need to be someone other than I am in the counseling setting, but also knowing your audience, which the church taught me that one too. So know your audience, but be yourself. Bolding and Brickle, I'm not sure if I'm saying either of those correctly, but Bolding and Brickle, they ask the questions, how does they put in one of their articles, how does reality therapy differ from cognitive therapies, which I felt was helpful. The theories of Beck and Ellis are based on the principle that dysfunctional behavior is due to irrational thinking or self-talk. Reality therapy posits that all behavior springs from needs and wants. Beck and Ellis seem to deny the existence of human needs, while practitioners of reality therapy place needs at the core of human existence as engines of human choice. One area that reality theory gave me pause was how to rephrase the words in our questions toward owning our action. I feel like that could get pretty muddy for a client real quick. And Marcus gave us that example by asking if so, does that mean I'm to blame? And the phrasing Mike gave to change that question would have been a hard sell for me. I get what the theory is trying to do, in so much as it is trying to get you to think differently about how you phrase things, and then your word usage then changes your perspective. But I think I really felt like that bit of the theory is a bit of a distraction. I worry what this could be construed as berating or issuing fault, even if you say it isn't. In Ellis's REBT approach, he cautions that therapists need to be careful that any work towards solutions and or perspective should not feel this way, but focus on the possibility of what could be. Unconditional acceptance, but also cognitive disputations are helpful here too. I think this is a rather nuanced issue on my part, but if a client is having self-esteem issues in particular, I could see where reality therapy and its importance on inputting action verbs into feelings could not be helpful and be misunderstood. Second, I really appreciate behavioral and emotive disputations found in REBT. This could really assist in getting to the meat of the matter and thus discovering what are best paths going forward for the client. For me, I see this as gently challenging the client, but with pretty wrapping paper on. And it's creative and can help the client see creative possibilities going forward. Thank you for your time and take care.